Week 3 of the 2024 NFL season kicks off tonight, so we're picking every game today on the Locked On NFL Scouting Podcast.
You are Locked On NFL Scouting with the Draft Dudes, your daily podcast for NFL and college football scouting. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's better than this? It's guys being dudes here on the Locked On NFL Scouting Podcast. We're the Draft Dudes. I'm Joe Marino from Locked On Bills. He's Kyle Crabbs from Locked On Dolphins. And we are your NFL experts here with you daily to talk team building across the league on the Locked On NFL Scouting Podcast with the Draft Dudes, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Want to issue a big thank you, shout out, and welcome to our everydayers. Those of you who never miss a single episode, we appreciate y'all being here very, very much. This episode is brought to you by PrizePicks. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNFL and use code all lowercase LockedOnNFL to win $50 instantly when you play $5.
Joe, it's time to get our act together here on the weekly preview show. The parity of the league has created some challenges for us as we get to know these teams. And I think this is the time for us to turn the ship around.
I hope so, man. The results, just picking winners, have not been too good for us to this point. And so hopefully, 2 weeks of familiarity. We're starting to know who these teams are and have a better outing. I'm ready to embrace a surge. We need it in a big way.
The bad news that I have for you is we do have an NFL draft related injury pertaining to one of the players we talked about doing next week.
I hate it. I saw it.
Kevin Winston, safety, Penn State, long-term injury according to James Franklin. So maybe we wait on him. I know we ended up realizing we talked about doing Harold Perkins for 4 days and then forgot about Harold Perkins. So maybe we put Harold Perkins back in.
Yeah.
Next week.
That sounds good. Next week. Yeah.
All right. So let's get things started. We have a game tonight between the New England Patriots and the New York Jets. The Jets are favored according to FanDuel by 6.5 points. I can tell you the show rankings like the Jets. The show rankings pick against the spread. You and I are just picking the game straight up. The show rankings likes the Jets by more than 6.5 points. I think biggest storyline going into this game. Patriots missing a number of starters along the offensive line. Although I don't know in the case of Vidarian Lowe that's necessarily a bad thing.
Right. Do you kind of feel like the Patriots have the stuff for this game? Worried a little bit about the Jets' run defense. That's a great visual. The cat behind you that's awesome. Right in the shadows. It's a great visual. If you're not on YouTube, you got to go back and watch that moment.
Making cats.
I'm indifferent on cats. But Ramondre Stevenson, the hot start that he has to the season's kind of concerned about the Jets and their defensive line and being able to play their run. I think the Jets are going to win at home, but I would not be surprised if the Patriots cover this 6.5 point spread.
I'm also on the Jets at home. It's just picking the game outright. A little worried about their ability to prevent enough explosives, I think. Well, all right. So
the Jets have less than 270 yards in their first 2 games.
I understand that. The Patriots are also down Jelani Tavai.
That's tough. Yeah.
I think Breece Hall is going to be the big winner this week for the Jets offensively. I don't think it'll be Garrett Wilson because obviously the Christian Gonzalez matchup I think is pretty good. The Jets, I think they can put enough of a lid on Keon White, but you have a number of difference maker players in the front for New England that's out, along with them missing a number of players in the trenches on the offensive side of the ball. Yeah, I'm picking the Jets.
Patriots cover?
I don't have to pick.
I know, but I know you don't.
The show has to pick, and the show thinks that the Jets will cover, but I don't have to pick. So,
all right,
I'm just gonna say the Jets win the game. Cleveland hosting the New York Giants. New York Giants first team in a long time to score 3 touchdowns versus 0 from an opponent and lose. I believe I saw was the stat.
Insane, right?
Insane. Yeah. Scored 3 touchdowns, managed to score 18 points. Right?
Yeah, their kicker got hurt, so they were in trouble.
You know, when it rains, it pours. And it's pouring for some teams across the league. I'll say that. The Giants are one of them. The Browns are favored by 6.5. The show likes the Browns to cover.
I like the Browns to win this game at home. I don't have a lot of confidence in the Browns on offense, but I do like their defense, and I think they will be suffocating to the Giants on offense. So ugly win, but I think the Browns come out on top.
I agree. So we are a couple of 6.5 point spreads. Everybody is riding home teams, Jets and Browns. And I think the tough thing for the Giants too is the thing you feel best about on their offense. They've invested a lot on the offensive line, and then you look at what the Browns have on the other side of the ball. It's like, well, yeah. There.
Right.
So the pathways for New York on the road, especially in this game, feel tough. Chicago at Indianapolis in a very strange game, I think, when you consider the Colts are down a number of starters defensively. Latu dealing with a hip injury. And then you have Chicago with just a disaster class of an offensive line, particularly on the interior offensive line. But the Colts just put DeForest Buckner on IR.
Boy, it's tough.
What's going on with the Bears' skill players?
Do you think over under 30 passes completed in this game? You're thinking about it, right? You're thinking about it.
I'll take over.
Barely.
If you set it at 36, I might take under.
Oh, I'd smash the under on 36. What do you trust most in this game? Like, what unit is the most trustworthy? Probably the Bears defense.
Bears defense is the most trustworthy.
Colts can't stop the run to save their lives, man. I kind of think the Bears win.
I'm thinking the Bears win as well. I mean, the Colts are a mess in a lot of ways. I mean, very frustrating. They gave up 30 points in the home opener. And then from a rushing defense perspective, Green Bay ran for 260-something on them.
When you knew they were going to run the ball. Malik Willis was quarterback, man.
Right, yeah. So unless Caleb turns into football Santa Claus and gives the ball away a whole bunch, I think the Bears are going to win a game.
Within the realm of possibilities. So that's what makes it scary to pick that game.
The show does like the Colts barely to cover a 1.5 spread. So the show likes the Colts, but you and I are on the Bears. You want to do one more?
Let's get one more.
Texans Vikings. The 2-0 Vikings at home are 2.5 dogs to the 2-0 Houston Texans.
You know, last week, the big storyline was that the Vikings were the 49ers kryptonite, and the Texans are kind of a carbon copy of the 49ers, right? With D'Amico Ryans as their head coach, and that's same style of defense. Bobby Slowick, of course, the offensive coordinator. You know, if the Vikings have the sauce, right, to handle the 49ers, you'd feel like they'd have a good chance against Houston. It feels aggressive to pick Minnesota.
Keep going.
But I mean, come on, like there's a discrepancy. Like the quarterbacks are different. Like I know Darnold.
Apparently Sam Darnold got the Michael secret sauce.
Bro. Did you? Oh, I don't think I can do it. But can I do it? Can I pick Minnesota to win at home? I think I will. I think I'm going to pick the Minnesota Vikings to win this game.
I will be riding the Houston Texans.
Probably smart. You got the better quarterback.
I know Minnesota defensively is throwing the kitchen sink at everybody. I trust CJ Stroud to process and work through all that. And I think Houston's the more talented team. So I know Minnesota's ran the ball well. I think they're number one in the NFL in yards before contact with offensive line. Is that something of a question for Houston? Maybe. But I think you're going to get to a point, especially with I don't have to worry about the spread, although the show does like Houston minus 2.5. I think you're going to, this is a game I could see going into the late stages, and I just trust CJ Stroud more than I trust Sam Darnold to make the play in the big moment.
Speaking of trust, we got to figure something out on the other side of it. The next game up is the Eagles and the Saints. Folks, be sure to stick with us. For most of us that like collecting cards, the idea of spending $2,000 or more on a Patrick Mahomes rookie card just isn't in the cards. I love collecting, but that's some serious money to drop. Thanks to slab packs from arenaclub.com, now it's possible to score gem mints for a fraction of the retail price. Arena Club is the only repack that provides a real value, a complete view of all possible cards, and clear hit rates for each one. Arena Club slab packs are revolutionizing the repack game with transparency. After polls are revealed, they'll immediately be placed in your showroom for safekeeping, selling, trading, or auction. The Arena Club grading process is accurate, fast, and transparent, with a full grade rationale provided and explanation of how your card was scored. Whether you're buying, selling, trading, or displaying, Arena Club is the card collecting platform that you have to check out. Right now, you can get 10% off your first slab pack or card purchase by going to arenaclub.com/LockedOnNFL and use code LockedOnNFL. That's arenaclub.com/LockedOnNFL, code LockedOnNFL for 10% off your first purchase.
This came through while you were telling everybody about Arena Club. Did you see what Mel Kiper said this morning?
No clue.
2 high safeties should be outlawed from the game of football.
Oh boy, why?
The discussion around the league or the trend around the league of scoring being down and explosive plays and touchdowns. And
was he serious?
Yes.
Boy.
He's getting absolutely filleted on the timeline.
Oh, that's tough, Mel. That's such a bad thing to say. That's such a weird opinion. A defensive formation.
Says 2 high safeties, quote, should be outlawed.
Come on, Mel. Boy, that's tough. That's a bad take.
Run the ball.
Right, it's all cyclical. People can't handle it, man.
Just run the ball.
Right.
Mel Kiper, this came from Sparks with a Z _ flying 5 minutes ago. Mel Kiper Jr. turning this into takes on takes. Mel Kiper Jr. is right about banning the 2 high safety look. 100%. The NFL is boring to watch without the threat of explosive plays.
What?
Quarterbacks are lucky to throw for 200 yards in a game now.
What?
Off of 2 weeks? What are we doing? How many 4,000-yard passes did we have last year?
Plenty. You know what, dude? And I think it's 2 high safety shells are a big part of the equation, but the thing that nobody's talking about is how bad the quarterbacks are. Like, there's legit bad quarterbacks that are young, that aren't ready to play, that teams fell in love with the physical upside and forgot that you still have to be able to play within structure and play from the pocket. They're coming in and they're pooping their pants, man. Like, we have so many bad quarterbacks. And the last 3 years just put nothing into the NFL. Nothing.
Just run the ball.
Yeah, or just run the ball and be patient and take the check downs. And
with a safety that's playing on the hat, or a nickel player that's playing on the hash. They're playing 4-2-5.
Everybody's butthurt because they're fantasy numbers, right? Like, it's so stupid.
Just run the ball. Just run the ball.
God.
Anyway, you know who's not having issues with explosive plays?
Right.
If you can only stomach the game of football through the lens of are they hitting explosive plays or not, the Saints are your team. Clint Kubiak is in his bag for the first 2 weeks. Yeah. Probably the biggest when we do our updates to our roster power rankings, the Saints coaching staff and specifically because we're not huge fans of Dennis Allen, but the offensive play caller coordinator role for the Saints, we got to juice that number up big time.
Yeah, big.
Because he has been a revelation for the New Orleans Saints, who also have the ability, they have shown the ability to run the ball. And they are also among the top 5 teams in yards before contact, rushing the football. And for all the concerns that we had about the tackles and some of the turnover, well, we're going to hammer you, and then we're going to do play action off of it and shoot the ball down the field, and it's clicking for them because they got a lot of speed. So the Saints are at home. They're favored by 2.5 points against the Philadelphia Eagles. The show likes Philadelphia. I don't know that I agree.
Yeah, I'm riding the hot hand here, man, with Saints at home.
Yeah.
Eagles have been a disaster, dude, for like a good part of the last 10 or so games dating back to last year. going the hot hand here.
Man, and I'll tell you, seeing a Vic Fangio defense just melt in an end-of-game situation in primetime on Monday Night Football, I was having night terrors all over again. Watching Vic just refuse to bring any pressure. We're just going to play a bunch of soft coverage.
Dude, especially after that Chargers game where he won it on that pressure look, right? Like in week 1.
Right.
It's like, oh, you didn't like that? That was fun.
So, I don't know. Like, Philly, they're going to have the ability to run the ball, you would think. But this Saints defense has teeth. It gets tough. And as the field compresses, you're going to have to lean into what I don't think has gone particularly well for you thus far this season. And Jalen Hurts making the right decisions with the ball. Obviously, the end of game call on 3rd down, I had no problem with the call. I probably would have gone for it on 4th down. Like, Saquon catch the ball. But I just feel like Philadelphia situationally and just the vibe around the team, it has a lot of cracks. And New Orleans is so hot. So I'm riding New Orleans with you. The show is riding Philadelphia plus 2.5 on the spread. The Chargers, speaking of vibes being high, a couple of 2-0 teams, cracking skulls. In the Steel City, the LA Chargers, fresh off of wins against the Raiders and Panthers, are visiting Pittsburgh, who is fresh off of wins against the Falcons and the Broncos. Pittsburgh's favored by 1.5 at home. The show likes the Chargers against the spreads by a slim margin, plus 1.5.
I like the Steelers at home to win this game. I love their front seven on defense. I think Joey Porter Jr. is becoming one of the premier corners in the NFL.
Weird.
And I think the Chargers, I give them credit for being 2-0, but I don't think they're going to be able to run the ball like they have against Pittsburgh.
Why not?
I like Pittsburgh's front.
Compare the front to the Raiders'
Panthers.
front.
I think that it's a better front collectively in Pittsburgh, and I think much better than Carolina.
Oh yeah, much better than Carolina, but
I'm in on Pittsburgh this week.
I'm on the Chargers.
All right.
As long as Justin Herbert plays, he did not participate on Wednesday in practice with an ankle after having a foot. Wasn't it a foot in training camp?
Calf, maybe?
Some kind of lower. He's got a couple of lower extremity injuries through the last 2 months. So that's obviously a concern. And did you hear the Harbaugh quote about his staff?
No.
You didn't say that? I forget what the question was, but they asked him about like how they were going to get through something in the game. He said, like Moses, I'm going to die leaning on my staff.
Wow. No, he didn't say that. No, he didn't say that.
yes, he did.
That's freaking good.
Yes, he did.
Come on, man.
So the vibes are high with the Chargers. I'm being converted into a believer, but I also just feel like they have a proof of concept that they can run the ball like they did against the Raiders, which is a very tough, very good defense with a number of disruptive players. Good linebacker play with Spillane, Wilkins, and Crosby versus what you have with Hayward and Watt in the front and Patrick Queen. So I think they'll be able to run the ball, and we're a couple more games away of good offensive play, particularly against good defenses, for me to be buying in on Pittsburgh.
Hear you.
Tampa at home by 6.5 against the Broncos. The show likes the Bucs to cover a 6.5 point spread. I would probably pick the Bucs to cover 6.5 point spread too. You have Bo Nix, one of the least proficient passers on passes 10 plus yards downfield, going against the Todd Bowles defense, and the Broncos just put Mike McGlinchey on IR. Give me the Bucs.
Bucs.
Tampa's gonna mess around with 11 games this year.
Yeah, and I feel silly because I had questions with corner, with edge rush, with linebacker, with interior offensive line, and they're like, okay, cool, that's fine.
I mean, this is one of those teams you and I talked in the pre-show, and it's like, man, some of the coaching elements for some of these teams,
yeah,
kind of having the answers to circumvent the questions. And I think Tampa's a good example of that with Todd and what they're doing defensively. They have very good comfort in what they are. And look, they won at home in week 1 against Washington, but then obviously going into Detroit and having Jared Goff out of his game and getting Ben Johnson out of the game that he probably wanted to call. They deserve all the flowers, and now they're getting a soft opponent in Denver, and they're going to play the Panthers twice. So now you're at 5 wins. Right.
Plus, I mean, just Denver going to Tampa in September is not great either.
Right. The last 1 o'clock game on the schedule.
A little more balance this week. Thank you, NFL.
We have the Tennessee Titans favored at home by 2.5 points, hosting the Green Bay Packers, who may or may not have Jordan Love. Probably not. I would expect they don't.
Malik Willis revenge game, right? Let's go.
Malik took the high road with that. Asked him about revenge game. He said, I don't care.
Yeah, I think, dude, between Mike Vrabel and the way he talked about Malik Willis and you can only imagine the frustrations that Brian Callahan had is a completely awful scheme fit for his West Coast offense that Malik Willis was. He's probably really excited to go to Matt LaFleur, who's actually going to tailor things to help him be a good player.
As long as the center doesn't puke on the ball.
Bro, but all things considered, I thought Matt LaFleur, here's your flowers. That was an incredible job of getting him ready to go.
Greatest head coach of all time, Matt LaFleur. Packers fans?
I see no reason to think otherwise.
Yeah,
I don't. Tennessee, man, I don't know. I don't trust Will Levis. They've had punt blocked back-to-back weeks. Their defense wears down eventually. I trust Green Bay more in this game. Give me them for the road win.
You're probably right.
But
Tennessee's defense is good.
It is, but eventually it wears down, man.
Has it worn down, though?
I think so. I think the last 2 games are exactly what happened. They kept them in it forever, and the offense.
They have allowed the fewest yards defensively of an 0-2 team since the '94 Cardinals.
It's how bad the special teams and offense.
Right. So it's I don't blame the defense for wearing down a little bit, but the defense wearing down is the equivalent of 260 yards a game.
Against who they played, the Bears and the Jets.
Yeah.
Who you picking?
Make it interesting. Give me the Titans.
Oh, let's go. Let's go 3 different. We haven't even gotten to the 4 o'clock slate.
Well, we're about to. That's next.
Oh, yes. Thank you. Next here on the Locked On NFL Scouting Podcast. Stick with us. You've heard us talk a lot about FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Well, we got a little something different for you now through September 22nd. All FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. And with a YouTube TV base plan, you'll be able to watch every regular season Sunday afternoon out-of-market game. All that you need is a Google account and a current form of payment. You can cancel at any time. Just visit FanDuel.com to download America's #1 sportsbook. Forgot we were recording a podcast there, Kyle, for a minute. Yeah. So thank you. Thank you for the nudges.
Yeah. Jim Harbaugh, when discussing Chargers assistant coaches like Moses, I'm going to die leaning on my staff.
It's incredible. It's incredible.
He had another one too. I don't remember what it was. It was over the legal limit of what ifs. They were asked about quarterback. And then if it was is Justin going to play? If Justin doesn't play, would it be Easton or would it be Taylor as the QB2? He said, right now it'll be Easton, but right now we're approaching exceeding the legal limit of what
incredible. That's incredible. I like all the Harbaughisms. He doesn't bother me at all.
Let's see if we're bothered by this first 4 o'clock game. The Panthers, I'm bothered by it already, going to the Sin City to play the Las Vegas Raiders. The Raiders are favored on FanDuel by 5.5 points. The show likes the Raiders to cover 5.5 points, and I do as well.
Yeah, I think the Raiders win, but I think this is a better football team with Andy Dalton at quarterback. So I don't think they're going to be the clown show that they've been, but I think the Raiders win at home.
The Miami Dolphins visiting the Seattle Seahawks. Seattle, this game was off the board with the injury to Tua. came back on the board. I saw Seattle as high as -6. It's kind of came back down to earth a little bit. Seattle -4.5 at home. The show likes Miami to cover 4.5, but does like Seattle in the game. And this one for me comes down to Mike McDaniel. What are you going to do? Are you going to continue to try to run the most finely tuned offense on the face of the planet with a 7th-round, third-year quarterback with 6 games of NFL experience? Or are you going to dumb some stuff down? You're going to commit to your team's ability to run the football, which they've shown throughout the course of the first 2 weeks, and play a game like what Matt LaFleur did against the Colts last week. I think if they do that, the Dolphins have a puncher's chance. But if they're going to be like, well, no, we're still going to do all the shifts and motions and the timing with the route adjustments based on the leverage of the DBs and the spot throws where the foot's got to hit the back and then come out, it's not going to happen. And it'd be malpractice to think that it would with Skylar Thompson.
Yeah, it's a tough opponent on the road too. If Mike's not going to embrace what you talked about, and now they have to deal with one of the loudest environments in the National Football League, I don't see that going well. And I do think that Seattle's offense presents some challenges for Miami on defense. I like Seattle on the road, but I will say I've been wrong. I've missed the Dolphins on both games to this point. So
you like Seattle at home?
I like Seattle at home. Yeah.
Okay, I'm also going to pick the Seahawks at home. Detroit -3 in Arizona against the upstart Cardinals, one of the teams who's also rocking some good vibes. They put up some points, had a close game in week 1 against Buffalo, and then absolutely smoked the Rams. But I think Detroit coming off of a loss is a tough draw for Arizona.
Yeah, and I think there's a discrepancy in the trenches here. I think Arizona's got juice and firepower on offense. I don't know that they're going to be able to hang with Detroit in terms of Arizona's defense. I like Detroit on the road.
I also like Detroit on the road, and the show likes Detroit -3 on the road. Baltimore, 0-2 Baltimore, going to Dallas, who lost by 4 touchdowns to the Saints, maybe more than 4 touchdowns. I'm not a math guy, but
a lot of points.
Baltimore's favored by 1.5 on the road in Dallas. And I got a hard time with it. This might be the toughest game on the schedule because I think Baltimore's going to understand and recognize the magnitude of what 0-3 would potentially mean for their season.
Right.
But they do have some questions up front on the offensive line, particularly in the interior.
Dallas's interior defensive line is not a good situation either.
And Micah Parsons.
This team just gave up 190 rushing yards to the Saints.
I understand that. I think the Ravens are the better coached team, and therefore I think they will win this game.
I'm in on Baltimore
in a big spot.
I'm in on Baltimore as well. I don't think they fall to 1-3. That's crazy to me.
49ers without a number of key talents on the road against the Rams, who are without an even larger amount of key talents. San Francisco favored by 7 points on the road. The 49ers have owned this matchup head-to-head. The show thinks they will continue and do so by more than a touchdown, and I'm inclined to agree with the show.
Yeah, I'm in on the 49ers. The Rams are just too much attrition right now for them to be able to win this game, in my opinion.
Yeah. Kansas City visiting Atlanta. Atlanta off a Monday Night Football win, but on a short week. Chiefs favored by 3.5. Show likes the Chiefs by 3.5. It's an interesting game. Pacheco down for the Chiefs. It hurts for sure.
Yeah.
Hollywood Brown obviously put on IR, so that they're missing a couple key skill players. I think Atlanta can potentially get after the tackles a little bit. Trey Hendrickson is giving Kingsley Suamataia probably night terrors still for the week 2 draw that he got with Trey Hendrickson. So can Matthew Judon get in on that action a little bit? It's an interesting game.
I still like the Chiefs on the road to win this game. I think Atlanta can be competitive, but I just have a little bit more trust in Mahomes, obviously, and Spags on defense. I don't think Atlanta's quite hit their stride, although I thought they woke up quite a bit down the stretch against Philly, but I think the against Philly piece of that is a bit of an asterisk. I don't think that that Atlanta's shown the ability to defend the run well to this point. Not that KC's in great position to take advantage of that. Even if Pacheco was healthy, I don't think they'd lean on that. Mahomes on primetime Sunday Night Football, I think he wins this game.
I think that's a great call. And then I do think Chris Jones and George Karlaftis can make Kirk uncomfortable enough to kind of still show some of those warts as he comes back off the Achilles injury.
Yeah, it's crazy that
get after him and heat him up too.
Eagles couldn't do it, right? That was kind of the disappointing part of that game was how their rush didn't show up. I think Kansas City's will. I
could make a Vic Fangio comment about utilizing his players, but I won't. I agree with what you said, though. Jacksonville visiting Buffalo. Buffalo favored by 4.5 points at home. And the show likes the Bills to cover the spread on the first of the 2 games on Monday Night Football.
Jaguars, dating back to last year, have lost 7 of 8. Their only win came against the Panthers in Week 17. I don't think Jacksonville's well coached right now. I like their defense, but they're going to be a man coverage team without Tyson Campbell. It'd be a different test for Buffalo because of the man coverage that they're going to face. But I like the Bills at home with a rest advantage over a reeling Jaguars team.
So I'm going to pick the Bills to win the game, but I think the most interesting part of this game is, can Jacksonville get it going on the ground offensively? With Buffalo obviously having the front, they had a great game script to get Von Miller teeing off in the second half of that game last week. But now they're down both linebackers.
Yep.
With Terrell Bernard has a pec that's going to keep him out for, it sounds like, a month, a couple weeks, something like that along those lines. Taron Johnson's still out.
He's out.
So it's like that. That's, if you're Jacksonville, I think you have to play Buffalo a certain kind of way, but the challenge of doing that is Buffalo wants to play that kind of game with how they've constructed their offense this year to run the ball. And then when they need the big plays, they've got Josh Allen.
I think Jacksonville will run the ball well. I don't think there's going to be any. They should. The Bills are giving rushing yards. They're giving light boxes like crazy. I think they played. Miami ran the ball 34 times last week, and they were in 2 backs or 2 tight ends on 17 of those runs. And the Bills gave them light boxes over and over again. So they're kind of like inviting that. Right. And will Jacksonville stay patient as a desperate operation right now? They should. That'll give them their best chance.
Correct.
I don't know that they will.
Well, and that's the trap that Miami fell into last week. You have success moving the ball, and then say, all right, we're in 22. We're going to put Robbie Chosen out here and try and throw the ball. He runs the wrong route and you throw a pick. Or you get a 3rd and 13, you get backed up, and you get a guy who makes a mistake. And I think that's with Jacksonville and the offensive coaching staff with Doug and Press Taylor. Jaguars fans are really frustrated by it, and they frankly should be.
Yeah.
They have more talent than what they've illustrated over the last 10 games offensively.
No doubt.
And then Brian Thomas has been a revelation for him, and it's still not clicking.
I mean, Kirk and Ingram have been the disappointment. I know Ingram missed last week in pregame, but even the week
had some rough drops in week 1.
Man, yeah, he's got 2 catches in 2 games. That was the message I preached. Yeah, there's new stuff on this offense, but Kirk and Ingram are there, and those are players like Trevor Lawrence likes throwing the ball. Well, that's not working.
Right. Cincinnati home against the Commanders with the other game. Cincinnati's favored by 7.5. The show likes Cincinnati to cover 7.5. Cincinnati gave the very inspired effort in Arrowhead last week. They will need this win at 0-2. I think they take care of business and take care of business in a big way.
Yeah, I'm with you. Bengals at home. Definitely. I think week 1 was Bengals got to start playing better at the beginning of the season. I think they got in their own way against the Patriots. Played a lot better against Kansas City. I think they get their first win of the season at home against Washington.
I agree. So that leaves us with 3 games different this week in our head-to-head picks. Chargers, Steelers. Joe's on Steelers at home. I'm on the Chargers on the road. Vikings, Texans. Joe's on the Vikings at home. I'm on the Texans on the road. And then Packers Titans. I'm on Titans at home. Joe's on Packers on the road.
You could pick up 3 for sure right there.
Well, we're tied right now.
Right.
So
yeah, we won't be after this week.
Games. That's right. We're mathematically, unless somebody ties, and let's not root for that because we hate ties on this show. That's going to do it for us here on Locked On NFL Scouting. We have Takes on Takes tomorrow, where you provide your hot takes around the game of football, and we give our response to your takes. We give our take on your take, hence Takes on Takes. You can find us on YouTube or wherever you list your favorite podcasts. We appreciate you guys checking out the show. Make it a great rest of your day. We are out of here.